The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
After 3 seasons, the AMG Sportscar Challenge has solidified itself as one of the most challenging and frenetic multi-class racing experiences on iRacing. With 3 classes and 5 different cars to choose from, the talent continues to flood in to see how they fare in the high-octane environment that John Ulmer has created. With the rise in driver quality, a win will surely be all the more coveted as the competition shoots for the top spot. But ultimately, the championship crown is the prize everyone is eyeing, and it will be settled over 14 rounds. It all kicks off today here at Suzuka as we get ready to watch round 1 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge, and you're watching it live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak. Joining me in the booth once again to cover the prototype and GT1 classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping watch over the GT3 class is Michael Smith, better known to us as simply Smitty. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Smitty, Suzuka is a name that escapes the lips of many drivers when asked to list the classic circuits of the world. What is it about this place that keeps drivers returning for more?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe, I think the big part of it is this place is just a hell of a lot of fun to get around. It really does have a little bit of everything, and because of that, it's a driver's favorite. It really is a driver's course, as you say that. It's the first corner, the S curves, hairpin, 130R. It's even got chicane at the end. Literally a little bit of everything around this joint. High speeds, high G-forces, back and forth and rhythm. This place is awesome. It's got a lot of passing zones as well. And when it comes to multi-class racing, she may get a little bit busy, but all the same, it's going to be a lot of fun. But to get a little bit closer look at everything we're going to be doing around this 17-turn, 3.6-mile course, let's jump on board that BMW with the GRC logo, and that's going to be that lap guide for tonight.
All right, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Suzuka. Heading down into turn 1, it's a fast kink and bleeds straight into turn 2. Going too wide into here will be difficult and dangerous. The draft may give you an opportunity, but someone will need to back out or else it's bad news. Lots of banking here in 2 to really carry your speed. After that, you're sent straight into the S's where the line is absolutely critical to a good lap time. With each corner flowing into the next, it's all about setting up for the following turn. Perhaps the most important of these is the final right-hander where you need to hug the right side to allow yourself a good run into Dunlop Corner. In a GT3 car, it's flat out all the way up to Degner 1, so getting a bad exit out of the S's could leave you vulnerable. Plus, you'll see Degner 1 here is tight and fast. It's another corner that's risky to attempt going through too wide. It also leads straight into Degner 2. It's the slower corner, but more heavily embanked and rewards drivers who can carry their speed over the apex. Now we've got a little kink leading into the hairpin. This is a potential passing zone, but predicting your opponent's line can sometimes be difficult, and drivers are often caught out by a sudden defensive move. Regardless, coming out of the hairpin is another place where a good exit can be extremely important. Once again, we're going to be flat to the floor all the way through turn 12. As you reach the end of it, you'll want to drift the car to the right, set up for spoon curve. This double apexer has a fast entry and a difficult threshold. Cars spinning off after going over the limit is not an uncommon sight. And just to pile on more pressure, it dumps the car onto the backstretch. Once again, the car behind will be catching your slipstream, so once you're confident you can get the power down, you better do it. Like most important turns on this track, it leads to a fast corner where being side by side can be extra dangerous. The infamous 130R requires incredible commitment and accuracy to hit your marks. And as you exit, you'll pull the car across the track and get ready for the Casio Triangle. This is another place where passes are common, but with it being a chicane, when anyone fights back, you're both going to have to give each other room and respect to come out intact. From here, we simply power down around the final corner since we've hit the pit straight, and as long as you've managed to keep it on the black stuff and pointed forwards, you've completed the lap around Suzuka. That should give you an idea, even with the very planted BMW, how much these guys are going to have to be wheeling it around this track, really working their driving skills, their handling skills with the car, getting it nice and set up for it. Well, it's round 1, so there isn't a championship to talk about, at least not yet in terms of points, but Bill has us ready for the update with all kinds of new faces, all kinds of new teams coming into the realm of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge.
That's right, Joe. It is the beginning when hope springs eternal, when every infant can grow up to lead a nation, every seedling a mighty oak, and every novice sin racer is a champion. But let's not all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. The truth is, many of these drivers have little hope of being anything but caterpillars. But there are a handful of drivers in each class with butterfly potential. In the fastest class, the HPDs, they call him Noel because of Joe Peak's proclivity for inserting an L into his last name. Backmarkers call him Hot Knife. His Season 3 class champion trophy is engraved Robert Tinsey Tinsey, and he remains the odds-on favorite to repeat as champion. But fire marshals are counting heads because this class is getting crowded. Returning to the prototypes after a season away to win the GT1 crown is Jason Girard. Now, Jason's on vacation today. He won't be here, but keep an eye on the always fast Kevin Binkley. He follows Girard in to race in an open cockpit as well. Then there's the Brazilian blur, Duljan Boldrin. He has the reputation of being very quick. Privateer Patrick Wolf could be someone to watch. And then there is Big Big Cheese Ulmer, a box of disappointment wrapped in potential. One thing is for sure, this class will be much more competitive than it was in the previous season. Now let's move to the GT1s. Neck and neck all season long. Last season they were neck and neck. Girard's departure opens the door for his main rival, Troy Schuster. But it won't be easy for Schuster because joining the class is another formidable Brazilian, Arthur Hermont. Now, Dino Topic has proved that he can keep pace with the big boys, and at the end of last season, Billy Smith started to race like he did in Season 2 when he dominated in his caddy in the now defunct GTD class. And then there is Stephen McGarvey. Some say he's overrated, some say he's the real deal. If McGarvey can handle the learning curve of a new series, he could earn his share of GSRC screen time. Now let's move to the GT3s. Not to take anything away from Paul Darling's championship, but the competition really parted like the Red Sea, and oh my, walked to the crown. Dexter the main man, Castro, he's not going to be here. Jason Deep Freeze DeVries might be making guest appearance in the prototypes. He won't be back to run here, but hang on, because John Paquin will be returning, and a dominating guest performance near the end of last season has everyone concerned. Now, Jim Carpool McGinnis hopes to regain his consistency that earned him the Season 2 trophy, but everyone is whispering about Tony Lamberti and Brian Lockwood. Now, will they be anything for Paquin and Darling? We'll find out. It remains to be seen. 14 races will leave little doubt. Now, we have the series record 16 teams entered. Lots of silly season driver swaps. We'll cover that more and more detail next race. But for now, Talon Motorsports and Team WFO on paper appear to be the teams to beat. Joe, once all 4 races are in the books, we'll be able to look back at this segment and laugh about how nothing went as expected.
And we've seen all throughout last season and in Season 2 as well that this series continues to produce races where we cannot call it until they come across the line and take that checkered flag. So I do not doubt that, yes, it'll make us all look like fools when it comes to predictions. Now, there are some other changes as well out on the track because fans of the roof, I think, Smitty, are going to be a little bit disappointed this season.
Well, they might be, yeah, indeed. If you're a rear-engine fan or that mid-engine deal, you're going to be a little bit absent because it's all about front-engine rear-wheel drive with the Mercedes as well as the BMW. The BMW is sticking around from last season. The Mercedes, the new shiny thing that everybody wants to drive, and I do mean just about everybody. This thing is basically populated by the Mercedes with just a handful of drivers sticking around with that BMW, but it doesn't mean that any one of these two machines is the better of the two. Currently, right now, we look at the two machines, and while the Mercedes is the popular of the two, we do see that there's not much separating them in the time charts. So I'll be curious to see, with the two machines being fairly close as far as the idea of how they work, and the balance of power of GT3 being very good right now, it really could be all about driver preference, not necessarily the car that finds somebody out on top in GT3.
We'll have to keep our eyes on that. as you said, with lots of Mercs, they do have the numbers, but could come down to who's got the talent. Now, even though we have the same cars from last season in the GT1 class, formerly GTLM, been renamed to these GT1 cars, it's looking like it's a little tilted, Bill, on this qualifying at least. We'll see when it comes to the race, but man, it's a little swayed to one side.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not so sure if that's just because of the one car having advantage over the other, whether the Aston Martin and the Corvette, one has the advantage. I think it might be talent up there that has the Corvette doing so well. You got Troy Schuster and Montero and Smith and Hudson, McGarvey. Those are all big names, Topich even. So the Corvettes are really up on top. The Aston Martin's farther down the list, but again, some of those names that are driving those guys aren't your top performers. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens here as it goes on. But I would think, at least on this track, it looks like it's Chevy.
Now, stepping up to talk a little bit about the prototypes before they end up qualifying here, I'm looking at, we're watching very closely what Patrick Wolf was doing in the qualifying there, Bill, and he nearly managed to pip Tinsey, but Tinsey put in a good lap towards the end and took the pole once again, but Patrick Wolf is not letting him get away with this. We saw him at the start of last season in the GT1 cars, but I'm curious to see what he can do in this fastest class.
Yeah, and hopefully Patrick will make a full run this season. Also, you throw into the mixer, we talked about it, that Jason Girard is in there too. We saw Girard in season 2, the previous one, the one that before the last one, where he was giving Tinsey a lot to handle. Whereas Tinsey's gotten, I think, even faster since then. What's interesting is we look there at Tinsey and Wolf. We'll talk about it when we do the grid, though. What's interesting, John Ulmer is down there in 5th spot. So he's really got to pick it up a little bit. And actually, John needs to get off to a good start. Maybe it just brings it home, gets a nice podium, be a good way for him to start the season. Like to see him get a good finish rather than down the list a bit.
Yeah, I was noticing that too, and it's a little surprising that he's as far down as he is in the qualifying. But he could come back through. It is a long race. Maybe he can finally smash his demons and get around some of the troubles that he had all season long. In fact, he finished on good form with, I believe it was 2 wins in a row at the end of last season, if my memory is correct. I don't have it in my notes.
He was doing well, and I believe he's ready to carry that across for this season. We got a huge field here today, Joe.
Yeah, a lot of cars, and we're used to seeing this at the start of new seasons for most series, as we've got, it looks like, possibly up to 53 cars starting the race.
Absolutely, and the race stewards right now are chasing the animals off the track there, so they can get a good race in.
Of course. Well, we've got about 30 seconds left in qualifying, and this is the last chance qualifying. A little bit different rules for that this season compared to last season. Drivers are not allowed to put their car on the track for the last chance qualifying unless they have not put their car on the track at any point during their regular class qualifying. So these guys who are out here can gain no advantage by putting a qualifying lap in during the regular qualifying and then trying to improve it later. You can only go out there if you can't make it to the regular qualifying. So, as the clock now runs down to 0 and the checkered flag comes out, everybody's going to finish their quali lap. Before we go to the grid real quick, we should also mention any drivers that you see out of order qualifying out of their class, they're going to have to start from the pit lane. Now, they will be able to exit before their class gets to the line, except for the prototypes, of course. Or no, after their class goes past the pit exit, I should say, before the slower class gets to them. So they will basically be able to start at the tail of their field. So, with that being said, I believe most everybody should have gotten their time in. Let's go through the grid. Robert Tinsey, we said he is on pole, but look at that. Only a tenth, less than a tenth between himself and Patrick Wolf there on the front row. Matt Quinn is going to be starting in 3rd, followed by Mark Ponick in 4th. Row 3, all the way down in 5th, we've got John Ulmer. Let's see if he can improve that over the course of the 60-minute race. Kevin Binkley is going to be starting in 6th with Kevin Santana in 7th, and then Ben Likens in 8th. Jeffrey Price will be starting row 5 and 9th, and Mark Wilson will round out the top 10, Bill.
Then we get to a few more prototypes there. John O'Day in 11th. 12th and 13th spots are going to go to Matt Owens and Atanas. Dimitrov. Then we get down to our pole sitter in the GT1 division, sitting 14th overall. Now, this is interesting, is Troy Schuster looking to do it again, but he's just got it by about a half second over Robert Montero. Billy Smith making a run there in 16th position. Sitting 4th and 5th in class is Chase Hudson and Stephen McGarvey. We talked about him in the little segment there we had about some new names. 19th is the quiet Canadian, Dino Topic, and then rounding out the top 20 in the first Aston Martin is Arthur Hermont from Brazil. Smitty?
Yeah, and after that, you got Paul Lindsay. He's in the 21st position. He's actually a transplant from the GT3 class, followed by Brandon Postma in 22nd. Leif Peterson, another one of the GT3 drivers moving to GT1 this season. Mark Schindel, David Sockrider, Sam Bohr, not a regular in the series, but jumping in here today. Chuck Chambliss, Sean Reese in one of those Chevy machinery pieces of equipment there, 28th. Christopher Sherburne, 29th. And then your pole sitter for GT3, John Paquin, is going to get it done with that 159.799, Bill.
Right beside him is going to be Tony Lamberti. Very close between them, only 0.2. He's second in the GT3s, but 31st overall. 32nd is Patrick Fleming. Then you've got Ross Booth in 33rd and Dave Hill in 34th. Robbie Morrison will start the race in 35th, followed by Sheldon Rosenbaum, another Mercedes out there in 32nd, or 36th rather, I should say. Jim McInnes is going to be starting 37th. Leandro Schmidt, and one of those fast Brazilians, he's going to be starting in 38th. And we've got Ryan Bird in 39th, and Jimbo Pfeiffer, Bill, will be starting in the 40th position.
Now it's me, and I get to roll off a bunch of Mercs here. Robert Jackman, this is 41st to 48th position. Robert Jackman, David Henry, Eduardo Tamidi, Tim McLeish back there. These are all in Mercs. Kevin O'Keefe back, Rutgers Kev in 45th position. Fabricio Bastiglia in 46th. I hope I get to call his name a lot. Robert Schlenka back there in 47th. 48th, Sheldon Woloshin. Then we get to a BMW in 49th. That's Emmanuel Agiri. And finally, rounding out in 50 spot, I'll take it all the way through here, is Joe Wren. A few names back here at the back. Bob Grant in 51st position for Mama Jean Racing. And then two drivers, I'm not sure. I think they're going to start from the grid, or from the pits maybe. I see Jason DeVries. I think he may actually run. And also Brett Terzine back there in 53rd spot. Joe, 53 names on the entry list.
Brett Trocine will be able to take the grid. DeVries, we have to wait and see if he is going to line up or not. Also, apologies, I called that Rosenbaum was in a Merc. He is in a Bimmer, actually. So got confused there on my colors. I was having a little bit of a Bill moment, but you can see them out there lining up just before 1:30R. And then we're going to have 60 minutes of racing here for round 1 of Season 4 and the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. We are thrilled to have this series back on our channel here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Pace Car takes off and gets them going, Smitty.
Yeah, they do, and I'm excited, man. It's a brand new season. We got people kind of moving around different classes, but it's kind of the same old thing. You got your prototypes, GT1s and GT3s, excitement aplenty in this series. Oh, man, it's race 1. I'm excited.
Now, sadly, I do not see Jason DeVries lined up in the pit lane, so I do not think he has taken the start. We're hopeful that he was going to be back. He is usually a fast driver, so it's going to be Tinsey leading the way, having control of the field here very soon as the pace car peels off, and he accelerates immediately. Coming across the line, Wolf is keeping him closely in touch. And actually, he's already challenging for the lead as Tinsey has to go defensive. Down into 1, he looks around the outside, and he might have to back out of it. Carries the momentum. They're still side by side for the lead, and now Tinsey is able to cut him off.
The GT1s, Schuster gets out to a great jump and has the lead. Puts a large distance on Billy Smith, who tucks into second. Battle going on for third.
Oh, and we see a GT1 car off the track. I'm not sure who that was. It was at the tail of the field. The GT3s are taking the start, though, now.
Yeah, and they're all well and clean there as they get away. In fact, Lamberti didn't even try. Lamberti from P2 in the BMW, the sole BMW with the sharp end of the field in GT3, didn't even try to put the pressure on. Instead, was welcomed and falling behind Bakeman to go through the first corner. Nice and clean, single file for a very large group of GT3s.
Very clean start for that GT3 class, but let's go back to that overall lead because Patrick Wolff has come out swinging and has already challenged for the lead. He has not let up. He is still within 2/10 right behind Robert Tinsley. Let's see if he gets a draft. It looks like he got a little bit of wheel spin though, Bill.
Yeah, it's nice to see that Tinsley getting a little bit of challenge here. Look at that Wolff hanging right in there in that dark blue machine.
This is what we were wanting to see, is someone really give a little bit of a hassle to Robert Tinsley after how dominating he was last season. Behind them, they do have Matt Quinn holding on in third, and he is being challenged by John Ulmer, who has worked his way up into fourth while we weren't watching.
Honick and Binkley round out the next drivers.
Take a look back at the GT1 class. Troy Schuster leading the way, and he's stretched just a little bit of a gap over Billy Smith. Good to see Smith back up towards the sharp end of the field, but right now not putting the pressure on our GT1 leader. Stephen McGarvey, another new driver, holding a nice solid P3 at the moment.
McGarvey did a good job. He's gotten around a couple cars. Lindsay, Hermont did a good job getting around a few.
Yeah, hey, and Bill, I'm not sure, we probably won't be able to get back to it now, but I just went back to take a look at what happened with those drivers in GT1 that did not get going. It was actually Chase Hudson, transplant from GT3 into GT1, that got in the back of our off-pole driver of Montero. Montero didn't get going when Chase thought he was going to, gets in the back to him, immediately into the wall, and those guys did not get going the way they wanted to this first race of the season.
Well, that's pretty disappointing for Chase because we saw what he could do in the GT3 cars. I expected a very feisty battle with him up at the top of the field. There you can see Chase Hudson currently running 16th.
Now this series, Joe, if memory serves me right, I believe they do have one fast repair in this series, so...
You are correct. And a 24 incident limit we should mention as well, so guys have got to keep it clean over these 60 minutes. Meanwhile, looking at the battle for 5th here in the GT1 class. It's Brandon Postma trying to chase down Arthur Hermont. Looks like both of these guys in Aston Martins. However, just behind them, we've got Mark Schindel in the Chevy. Let's see if that powerful engine can start to gain on these guys down the backstretch towards 130R. Looks like they are pretty even. And unfortunately, this battle is spread out just a bit. They're going to close up. Oh, and there's a little bit of smoke. I think that was Paul Lindsay overshooting the apex into the Casio chicane. In fact, yeah, he gave that apex a complete miss.
It's about a second and a half up on Hermont right now. Lindsay running 16th overall, 4th in class. First in the Merc, though. Oh, sorry, in the Austin, sorry.
Yeah, and Paul Lindsay is actually a transplant from that GT3 class. He was running in that roof last season. Was really coming on strong late, so I'll be really curious to see how he does in the higher horsepower. A little bit different ride here in the Aston Martin.
We got an overtake happening with Chuck Chambliss going past Sean Reese. I'm not sure if Reese maybe had a cut course somewhere in there because it looked like he just gave it up. Now, if you're looking at Chambliss and wondering why he is running a Corvette, he is not actually running a Corvette. That is a Aston Martin in disguise, I guess you could say. But that moves Chuck Chambliss up into the 12th position in class. Still, he's got Dino Topic just ahead of him. Topic once again running the Corvette. As we watch these two, let's go back up front because Patrick Wolff, was actually challenging once again. Tinsley went defensive, but they did not get side by side. Wolf is putting the pressure on continuously. We're on lap 4 here with still 54 minutes left to go. We ride on board with Patrick Wolf as we weave through the S's. Happy hunting ground for these prototypes.
Now they're coming up on Jim McGinnis, who's off pace in his BMW.
Still, we might want to stay on board for a while. Oh, and just going to try and sneak inside. McGinnis gave him room, but he wasn't able to take it. Now it looks like Wolf is able to get by. I was going to say, we need to stay on board when these guys catch the back of the GT3 field. That'll be Bob Grant currently.
And I don't think, that people always get on me about this. Tinsey and McGinnis are teammates, but honestly, I don't think that came into play there. It sure did hurt Wolf's pace.
Yeah, it looked like that he gave him room, so he was expecting him to go through. It's just, unfortunately, it looked like he was a little too far back.
Yeah, and that's all about that multi-class racing, isn't it? I mean, it's not that there was any kind of shenanigans or anything like that. It's just bad timing. It's just that catch guy right there going through the corner. Couldn't find his way by smoothly.
So before we leave, let's set it. It's 1.7 seconds right now from Tinsey back to Wolf. When we come back, we'll see if that's going up or down.
Well, we might want to stay with these guys because he is closing on Bob Grant very quickly. And I think he's going to catch him in the S's, which is going to be a tough place to try and get by without losing time. So this may gain Patrick Wolf the time back that he lost. And he catches him just at the right time, and unfortunately, not for Patrick Wolf. Has to slow up a little bit, but he sneaks by just on that little stretch between the two corners. He did gain some ground. He's now only 0.8 back.
Good job of Grant getting out of the way. In fact, all the prototypes are coming through now.
Next on the list is going to be Joe Wren. Guys, I'll tell you what, I know we got these prototypes coming through, but we got a bit of a side-by-side truly train going on back here with GT3.
We need to go to the overall lead, actually, because Tinsey was held up severely coming through Degner 2. I thought Patrick Wolf was going to take a go. Didn't quite get an attempt in. Now they're going to work their way around the Mercedes of Trocine.
Now they're clear. Now they got a little bit of ways to go before they get up to Woloshin and Shalinka. So, Smitty, what do you got?
Well, I was just going to say, fighting for third on back in GT3s is basically the entire field. It's nonstop. It's been crazy up here. These guys trying to find their way by, the ebb and flow going on. And as you can see, it basically is Daytona or Talladega through here for these GT3s. A little bit of ebb and flow, but really, these guys are on the right foot and they're trying to find their way through. Just a lot of action going on right now. As you can see, a little bit further back, a prototype trying to make his way through as well.
I do not envy that prototype. It's Patrick Fleming in P3 up at the lead. Oh, and is there going to be contact? Very close moment between Booth and Morrison.
Let's go to Tinsey too, as we're side by side as they go into one, and we have a new leader if he can hold it.
He's around the outside. We saw him try it in the first lap. This time he's got a leg in. Can he hold on through the S's? He backs out. But now they are coming up on this huge GT3 battle, and this is going to get very interesting.
I'll tell you what, if there's time for an onboard, this is it right now. But I wouldn't do it with Tinsey. I would do it with second place, because you're going to be able to see everything you can all the way through this train as these guys try to slice and dice their way through. It's just non-stop. You're going to have to try and make it as best you can, but not get the timing wrong. Keep an eye on Wolf, because he is in the catbird seat right now.
Tinsey's strength in the past has been him trying to get through traffic, picking the right moment, not putting his car in a dangerous spot. And you can see that here as he really isn't making any wild dives, yet he's still holding on to the lead. They've worked their way past... and Eduardo Tomede actually goes off and trying to...
Contact spoon
Fleming. Yeah, looks like Fleming got into it. And he's spinning again.
We have more contact right in front of him too as well. That was Fleming as well as Booth. Both of those drivers having issues through the spoon curve.
And all this is happening in front of the prototype leaders.
And that was kicked off by Kevin Santana, I think catching him off a little bit, managed to avoid that chaos. But Fleming, yeah, he got a little unnerved, I think, and had to slow up, and that actually is what caused Booth to get into him in the side of him.
Oh. What Tinsey is working right now, he is having to weave his way through. He gets around Bird. He's trying to get around Morrison. Like Smitty said, these GT3s were lined up nose to tail about 20 deep.
Yeah, what's tough for those guys, right, is they're trying to spend about as much time, if not more, looking behind them, looking to that rear view mirror to try to make sure they don't go for the normal apex, and they got a prototype alongside them already.
And you can see the downforce difference as Patrick Wolf goes clear around the outside of these cars, and that gives him a little bit more space now to try and chase down Tinsey. Tinsey, however, also has the clear air as there's a bit of ways up to Lamberti. So we pick up right where we left off from last season with just the incredible pace of action here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. And if you're just joining us, you're watching it live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. It's the first round. Lots of new names, just shaking things up.
Joe, there's action everywhere. Maybe we can go to Billy Smith real quick, running second in the GT1s. Just touch on these real good because we haven't talked to them much. Billy Smith running second, but he's being challenged by McGarvey. Stephen McGarvey back there, seeing if he can get around. He's closed up on it a couple times. I think if a McGarvey can get around Smith, he might have something for the leader, Schuster, but he's got to get going as we're about a quarter of the way through this race.
And we've watched Billy Smith have to battle side by side in these GT1s before, and we know that he is not afraid to bang doors. So I think that McGarvey is going to be in for a fight if he tries to make a challenge. Still not close enough at this point as they come through Degner 1 and 2. It's another potential passing zone here down in the hairpin. The kink making it difficult to try and square someone up. The accordion effect bringing them together. This is where you really need to be gentle on these GT1 cars. Both drivers driving Corvettes, so no difference in car.
Joe, I'm with you. I didn't mean to be silent, but man, there is action going on. It's going to be impossible for us to cover it all. There's action everywhere.
It seems like it. Meanwhile, if you see any cars, unfortunately, having a little bit of issues dancing around, we apologize for the technical difficulties. Meanwhile, still watching this battle, McGarvey closing in very well, coming into the Casio chicane, and gets himself a decent exit. Can that draft help him in to try and make a pass down into one? I don't think he's going to be close enough. Too little, too late.
Yeah, we talked about McGarvey did not have a good qualifying time. He started farther back, but boy, he's really got the pace now. Working on Smith. And Smith is losing ground to Schuster. I think McGarvey thinks he might have something for the leader if he can just get this done.
Yeah, and the leader has been stretching away, too. That gap being almost 6 seconds now between Smith and Schuster. So now that Tinsey's managed to get himself a little bit of space, we should point out that Patrick Wolf is still nearly 3 seconds back from our leader. Now that it's a straight fight and he doesn't have the draft holding him in there, it seems like Tinsey's able to hold that gap just a little bit.
I'll tell you what, guys, not much to say about GT3s currently as we right now are watching Tinsey go around the course. Right now, there it is, Paquin, your leader. He's out front, kind of comfortable right now. He hasn't had to worry about a whole bunch. Tony Lamberti, the guy who's closest to him in qualifying, is in second place in class. He's just trying to get around the course nice and smooth. Next in line is going to be Robbie Morrison, who's just getting her a bit of a bobble there from the prototypes trying to make their way through. It's actually spread out. Remember, we did just a moment, just like 5 minutes ago, just had a gaggle of cars, but they've all spread out as this traffic has started to pull its way through. So not a lot going on in GT3s. Everybody's trying to settle in. We still got a lot of time left in this race.
Let's go to Mark Ponick real quick. He's in a side-by-side battle with Matt Quinn in the prototypes. Ponick just got around him, and we're going into radio mode. So I'm going to call this like I used to watch Indy 500 when I was growing up. We're going to call it in radio mode as if we're stuck here with some video problems. Right now, Quinn is right behind Ponick as they head down into, let's see, coming into 130R.
Ponick still ahead, yeah, as he leads Matt Quinn, who he just overtook for that 4th place. They go into the Casio chicane. Quinn looking very good on the exit and actually gets side by side. Unfortunately, I think that caused him to have to check up. Now he starts losing ground. They're coming down to turn 1, and Quinn, unfortunately, has lost the opportunity with that great run that he had out of the chicane.
Now, fans of this series will understand that this is something we'll not only called most of last season, but most of this season probably as well, and that's Quinn and Ponick racing each other. They seem to find each other all the time on the track. Keep in mind that John Ulmer started behind both of these guys, have moved around them, and now running in 3rd position in the prototypes.
Interestingly, one of the strong drivers in the GT1 class, Kevin Binkley, has moved up to the prototypes, and he is not too far behind these two now. He's got about 7/10 up to, or about a second actually, up to Quinn as they work their way through Degner's 1 and 2. Quinn has dropped back just a little bit from Mark Ponick. He's got breathing space. They now head into the hairpin.
Driving down in there, Ponick out in front. Now remember, Ponick was behind Quinn. Quinn made a mistake in this exact corner right here. This is where we picked him up. Quinn made a mistake in the hairpin, allowed Ponick to get around him. But now, charging like you said, gaining is Binkley.
Yeah, I think part of it was due to their battling that he's able to close up on these guys. Meanwhile, Quinn misses the apex, the second apex of Spoon, just a little bit, and that allows Binkley to get a whiff of his draft. He's a little too far back as they head into 130R. The order still Ponick in 4th, leading these guys. Quinn in 5th behind him, and Binkley in 6th. Oh, and Quinn has a problem. He's into the wall. Through 130R, Matt Quinn, it looks like coming out of the corner, he got just a little bit loose. It looped around and went right into the tire barrier on the left side of the track.
And that's probably in the worst place to, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to drive that thing back in now. Yeah, he's got it back on the road. In fact, he doesn't even come in for the pit, yeah.
Yeah, this is curious. He must not have had that bad damage. I took a little bit of a closer look, and I did not see serious damage to the front wing, which is miraculous for Quinn. Although he's lost a lot of time, he's slipped down to 7th now.
130R, you're almost flat out through there, if not flat out. I mean, did he grab a little bit of too much curb, too much grass? What was the deal there, Joe?
I thought I saw a little bit of a wiggle when he clipped the inside curb, maybe, but the spin did not happen until he exited. It was very bizarre. Usually I would think that these prototypes are just straight flat out through that corner.
Just to update you then, says that's kind of cooled off a little bit. Billy Smith is still leading McGarvey. That's been going on since the last half hour. Those guys have been going at it. Smith with about half a second lead.
This is for 2nd place in the GT1 class. They break down in for the Casio chicane. And once again, Stephen McGarvey looking very good on the brakes, but as they exit, they start to stretch apart once again. As now we return to picture, and you can see these two GT cars streaking down the front stretch.
Now they're coming up on Bob Grant, running near the end of the field in the GT3. Let's see what Bob does. He was really good at letting these guys by last time in the prototypes. There he gets out of the way.
He's going to pull over, but he's still going to hold him up ever so slightly, and actually he goes off into the grass and he spins. Grant doesn't hit anything, gets it turned around, a nice little pirouette in the grass, but can he find a clear space of the track? There he goes.
Careful, Bob. Mama Jean's watching there.
That is for the Gin team, is that correct?
That's the Gin team, yes. Mama Jean watching from her home in Lakewood. Team owner.
And that, I believe, may have cost him some spots. Though he is well down. He's currently 19th, is Bob Grant. Oh, and someone is off. That's a GT1 car.
Is it Schindel, maybe? We're looking at a...
Yep, that is Mark Schindel.
And guys, we don't have to go to it now, but I do want to give a huge shout out to Dave Hill. 3 wide for a second. Actually made it side by side to get the pass done.
And sorry, we need to bring this to attention. I know we can't get the replay due to technical difficulties, but John Ulmer actually got into the side of Schindel. Let's see if we can see if there's any damage on Ulmer from that. Doesn't look like it. Not seeing anything from the camera angles that we're getting. But that was a late dive into Degner 2 for John Ulmer. Unfortunately, it looks like his demons are back.
John, it was a late dive, but Mark Schindel, you got to know it's John Ulmer. He's coming there.
Let's go to our 2 prototype leaders because they are going through a bunch of cars right now in multiple classes, having to weave their way through. Tinsey goes through first, and now he's finally clear. But look at Patrick Wolf. He might... or are they going to go 3 wide? No. Everybody gets backed up here in the S's. Has to work his way around Billy Smith. Then around the GT3 car, Pfeiffer goes off. He gets a little bit shook, and he's into the tires.
Just a glancing blow, but yeah, he got scared off the track.
I'll tell you what, it does not take much in the S's there, especially if you get the front fender of one of these cars. It's going to go from turning to straight in a big old hurry.
Oh my goodness.
I joked about calling him Hot Knife, but Robert really has... Oh, look what he's got in front. Let's go to Tinsey right now. He's got... There's McGuinness in front of him again, and then on the outside, that's Troy Schuster, the leader in class.
He is just a master when it comes to traffic. It's so rare that we see a mistake from him.
Speaking of mistakes, just behind him, that's McInnes going off, I believe, for a moment.
That was indeed. In his BMW, he's managed to get back on. I don't think he touched the wall.
Yeah, and actually, I think McGuinness has gone from BMW to Merc.
Switched to Merc.
Same paint scheme, though, so not much difference between the 2.
They, of course, picked the cars that look the most similar from profile.
Exactly.
All right, so that I don't believe that actually lost any positions for McInnes, did it? He's currently sitting 15th. And that is within class.
Not having a really good performance there in that class. Was he running about 8 seconds? Boy, he's well down.
No, he's 15 in 15th in class. Yes. Meanwhile, you're not missing a whole lot in the prototypes. Everybody has at least a second or more between them in that class, so it's spread on out, Bill.
I'm watching as maybe we can go to Wolf right now as he finally has one more. He's got Roberto Montero to go around. Wolf's got to be shaking his head saying, I'm faster than Tinsey, and I really think he is because every time Tinsey opens it up, Wolf's able to run him down. Right now, they got a clean track ahead of him. It's 2.3 seconds. But Tinsey just, with luck or skill, I don't know what it is, but man, he gets through traffic like nobody's business. Let's go back to Tinsey real quick because he's coming up on Flemings, Henry, and O'Keefe.
Yes, definitely some traffic, and maybe it's a combination of both luck and skill that allows him to get through. He certainly seemed to have it last season. As dominant as he was, there's still a couple opportunities that went his way as he had a bit of a hairy moment with Henry and squeaks his way past O'Keefe. O'Keefe, not with his typical Rutgers livery on his car yet, was not able to paint it in time.
Hey guys, just watching these prototypes get around here, I gotta tell you, this reminds me of a couple of seasons ago when we just had a whole bunch of guys getting after it, and we got actually a spin there, as you can see in the hairpin. Possible prototype and a GT3 getting together. Is that Matt Quinn? I think it's Matt Quinn. Looks like the car's okay. I don't see a lot of damage there.
And that was set off by Joe Wren.
Right.
He was trying to get back on the racing line. Are those cars teammates, actually? It looks like they might be.
No, you got
WFO,
WFO
yeah.
and then Excelsior there. Just to finish my point real quick, I was just saying that the prototypes, the fighting that we're seeing already in these two guys, super exciting, and I'm really excited to have Gerard come back. Reminds me of a couple of seasons ago when we just had so much depth in prototype, non-stop fighting. Tinsley obviously having the runaway last year. I got a feeling he's going to have a fight on his hands all season long.
Well, to follow up on that, Smitty, what Wolf is making Tinsley do is there's no time for him to breathe. He's got to work this traffic. Before, when he had a 5-second lead, he could kind of take his time, pick his spots. Right now, he's got Wolf. Really, what does a wolf do? Stalking, hunting? He's smelling him. He's got he's got his scent.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a 60-minute race, but Wolf has been putting the pressure on it since the word go.
Yeah.
And it's a 60-minute sprint race. Speaking of which, we're going to have pit stops coming up here pretty quick, guys.
In fact, a few of the GT3s have headed into the pits. Let me check my timing and scoring, see who's come in. Hearing that looks like Morrison is our first one, highest one up to pit, rather. Or is Jimbo Pfeiffer? No, Jimbo Pfeiffer has come in for a stop from what I've seen.
Yeah, I'm still seeing Morrison on course currently. Remember, it was Pfeiffer who had that small issue just a few moments ago in the S's, so you might have been trying to grab that pit stop early if you could.
In fact, Pfeiffer, you can see the damage on the left side of the car where he just glanced the tire barrier a couple laps ago. Not sure if it's going to affect the handling. That BMW certainly likes to have downforce to make for its lack of top end.
Let's go up to Dave Hill real quick, running in 28th position overall. He's in a battle, and you see these two prototypes between him. He's in a battle with Ryan Bird, and you can see how, there he is again.
That's our leaders, our prototype leaders getting through there.
Wolf has run down Tinsley again. I think if Wolf can just get there, he's got a shot to catch him.
Well, there's nothing between them now, and it's a bit of a gap up to Chase Hudson, who is the next lapped car that they need to get. Let's see how Patrick can do on his own. Gap at the moment between these two is just 0.5 of a second.
And what I think is going to happen, we talked about Chase Hudson. He's in a GT1 right now. I think he's going to come up on your leaders in GT3 about the same time that the prototypes get there. The prototypes are going to be running up on behind. We haven't talked much about them much, Smitty, but Paquin and Lamberti still out there, unless they decide to come in for that pit stop, which may not be a bad idea with Tinsley coming up behind you.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it might not be a bad idea, but honestly, if you're not losing the time, you're in a rhythm, go ahead and keep it rolling. This Paquin comes around the final corner and bypasses the pits. He will not come in this time, and neither will Lamberti.
You know, Bill, I think you're onto something here with Patrick Wolf, because he was closing up quite a bit. He lost a little bit of time through the chicane, and I think that's the accordion effect. But when he has stretches where they don't have slow corners, he seems to really gain on Tinsley.
Yeah, he gobbled them up down the main straight now. Now they come up through here. And sure enough, though, now they're going to come up behind. This is our pair of leaders. They're coming up behind Lamberti.
Guys, you know who this might pay off for, aside from our prototype drivers who start to slice their way through? Wolf, going to lose no time doing it, is actually Ryan Bird, GT3 driver who just made his pit stop. But these other GT3 leaders have a bit of a time. As you can see, our prototype's having a little bit of a balk. Here comes Wolf. Will he have a shot coming through here, this right-hander?
Through Degner, too. Now they come upon John Paquin. He's able to just hold to the side. Wolf right on top of him now. Only 0.3 between them. Sneaks past Paquin down into the hairpin. Gets himself a good launch. Oh, this could be his best opportunity yet. He's got the draft as they work their way through 12. Now up to Spoon. Difficult place to sneak inside. Not a lot of braking in these downforce heavy prototypes. He still takes a look. Goes out to the normal line. This is where he's got to get a run, Bill.
I think Tinsley got a good bite out of Spoon. Let's see. Can they do it when they get down in the Casio Triangle? They're going to have to go through 130R. It looks like he's too far back this time.
Saved by the bell for Robert Tinsley, getting a great run just when he needed to, and I think, yep, Wolf is just going to be a little bit too far behind now as they slow down for the chicane. Let's see what he can do on the exit of the corner. Oh, he's very good once again. Oh, but Tinsley into the pits.
This is the time for Wolf right here. He's got to put one in. If he can really get on the right foot, put a flyer in here, he might have a shot at leapfrogging him in the pits.
Pressure is on for Patrick Wolf, his first race in the prototype. I want to say this is his 5th race overall, 4th race overall. Meanwhile, our leader in the GT3 class, Paquin, has headed in.
Indeed, you do have Paquin, and he's making his stop right now. I'm keeping an eye on Bird. He was the first one to make his stop. He was P4. He shouldn't be able to make up quite enough to get all the way up there, but we do have varying strategies now, guys. As you can see on screen right now, Bird, very close moment there. Right side's on the dirt. We got Bird on an early strategy. You have your overall leader on the early strategy. Let's see who comes out on top.
It sounds like Bill has noticed something with Mark Schindel, though.
Well, let's go up to David Sockrider running in 20th position GT1s. He's going around Jim McGinnis right now. This is a nice battle going on kind of mid-pack of the GT1s. Sockrider up there in front, but right behind him is Schindel. As they go through here, then you got a prototype in a mix in there. And then a little bit farther back,
That's our leader, actually.
Oh, that's your leader, yeah.
That's Patrick Wolf catching traffic at a time he absolutely does not want it, but he managed to slice through there. He was very aggressive. Now he's actually coming up on lap traffic in his own class. That's Mark Wilson. Is he going to be able to get inside? No, he has to hold behind him.
That's, as you say, that's exactly what he did not want to see. Trying to put in a fast time, he is just losing time hand over fist. Does he come in here?
They're killing him.
Wow.
That's
Wilson,
and then a car off that looks like Bob Grant is off.
I think Grant just decided he doesn't want to deal with any of this. And Wolf comes in for his stop.
I wonder if Tinsley was paying attention to that relative, maybe pushing on the up arrow a few times, seeing that he had a bunch of cars coming up and it was time to come in.
That could not have been a good lap for Wolf there. He got traffic the whole back half of the lap. Now Tinsley is out right now. He's got a pretty clean track ahead of him. Actually, he's coming into the Castillo Triangle right now.
Yeah, I'm going back and watching. He only had about 2 cars this whole lap get in his way, so he's going to have a nice out lap. And Patrick Wolf is still stationary as he comes to the main straight. Now he's taking off. Where's Tinsley? He is well clear. Beautiful strategic move by Robert Tinsley.
Boy, Robert talks about it in the forums a lot, how his race is 1 hour of nothing but white knuckle racing. And it's really true as they come up now behind David Hill. They get around Dave Hill. Interval about, my timing and scoring won't tell me. Let's see if I can give you a time back to Wolf here.
I'm seeing maybe about 2.4 seconds.
We'll keep an eye on that, see if he's got 35 minutes to run him down. No more pit stops.
Yes, with this being the sprint format, it's one stop for all 3 classes, at least one planned stop, and then they are back out and on their way.
Speaking of pit stops, just a quick update on our GT3 drivers. Paquin is done. With his stop, he's returned to the lead. Lamberti just got his done. He is in second again. He's actually able to close it up ever so slightly in the pits, but it is all the same as it was before. Paquin, Lamberti, and Hill, your top 3 in GT3.
And then if we can go to the GT1s, I can run these down for you now, because I do have a little bit of an update. Right now, you can look at Troy Schuster. We'll stay with him for a little bit there, as he's got to get around Morrison and Schmidt ahead of him. In a bit of a, gets by Morrison, and now he should be able to get around Schmidt. Let's leave him, because I want to go back to second position. We talked about this battle. Stephen McGarvey, he's gotten around Billy Smith finally. McGarvey moved into second. Billy Smith now trailing him, but not by much. So keep an eye on McGarvey as he's got Robert Jackman in front of him and Montero.
Quite a bit of traffic for these guys, and look at him slither off wide. That is Montero. Trying to get out of the way here. I know at some point I am going to accidentally call him Roberto Moreno.
So now Garvey gets around them, and now there goes Billy Smith trying to work. He's got... he's pinned.
Look at that. Just can't do anything. Now he's able to work his way past Robert Jackman. Just awful timing for Billy Smith.
And then we'll go back a little bit farther. Our rundown. The 4th position right now, Sean Reese, I believe, if I'm correct on that, Director. Well, we're thinking that it's Lindsay.
Yep, looks like Paul Lindsay currently scored in 4th position in the GT1 class.
There we go.
He's just ahead of Brandon Postma.
We'll round out the top 5 there with Brandon Postma.
Well, Patrick Wolf is not giving up yet. He is back within half a second of our leader, Robert Tinsey. He gets held up a little bit through Spoon Curve. That was Sean Reese and his Corvette getting out of the way. The gap still about half a second, though. We have 23 minutes left to go. We're just about to get into the final third, and that was Leif Peterson off track and having to cause Robert Tinsey to take evasive action. Oh, and that actually, he had some help. Eduardo Tomede and the GT3 class caught a little bit of grass going into 130R and tipped into him, and then he was spun the rest of the way around by Chuck Chambliss. Meanwhile, Wolf now right on the back of Tinsey. We see him do this time and time again, get within just about a car length, maybe even make a challenge of a pass, but just can't execute the overtake.
They get around Lawson without much trouble.
We've got a little bit more traffic coming up, too.
This is completely different from last year, isn't it? We would talk about Tinsey at the beginning and then again at the very end, and now we are talking about prototypes from the start to finish. What a show these two drivers putting on right now.
That's Jim McInnes that he squeaks by. Next, it's going to be David Henry.
Oh, I don't think so.
Caught up. There's nowhere to go, but unfortunately, actually, it looked like McInnes got back into things a little bit, and he held up Patrick Wolf at a critical moment.
There it is again, and Wolf still trying to get around Henry.
Having to weave.
He was going to go high, he's going to go low, and then he went...
And you know, I don't think Henry did anything wrong at that moment. No. It's difficult around that corner to pick your line right. And unfortunately, Wolf kind of had to try and figure out which side. And they both kind of went to the same side for the moment.
I wouldn't be surprised if Wolf paints the front of his car chrome the next time he gets a little bit of action. You guys have seen Hunter Ray with the chrome front end of his Indy car. Same thing for Wolf here. He just needs a little bit of help.
I heard Dimitrov.
It's the Mama Jean car. Looks like we'll see what happened there. He was not happy, but it looks like he did it all himself. He's coming up behind Lindsay.
I wasn't able to track him down. What exactly happened with him?
He just came up behind him, and I think he got on the binders and spun it. So I don't think there was really anything to complain about there. He's back out now.
Sometimes drivers just needing to vent frustrations in the heat of battle. So, your order in the prototypes right now. Tinsey just barely ahead of Wolf at the moment. Ulmer has worked his way up into 3rd place, looking at a podium spot. I'm sure he wants more than that, though. Ponuk is in 4th, and Binkley is in 5th.
We got to go up here to Tinsey again. This is a mess he's in. In fact, he's pinned. He squeezes through Boren and O'Keefe. O'Keefe and Boren did a great job of getting out of the way.
It's still on as Wolf takes a little bit of a peek down into Spoon. Tinsey is unfazed, takes his line, but they're coming up on Ryan Bird. Are they going to catch him at the right time? Just barely squeak their way around him. Now they fly uphill towards 130R. And we see Patrick Wolf very close this time. He's got a battle in front of him, though. And that's GT1 cars, actually, I think.
It's Topich and Sockrider up there battling for position, so they're not going to be real happy to get out of the way here.
Look at Patrick Wolf just in the background, hunting down Robert Tinsey. He doesn't get a good exit out of there. Same thing with Sock Rider, who has dropped back just a little bit from Topic.
And he's not going to get there. Not going to get there before the S's.
Oh, look at this, being held up. Tinsey's going to get him, and Wolf is going to get him. Now they come upon Topic.
Gives him just enough room. Topic in that battle back there with Sock Rider. Wanted to let him by, but didn't want to do it and lose a spot.
Did a great job, actually, I think, of managing that gap and letting them through. Still, Wolf has lost a little bit of ground that he had gained, trying to get by those guys. Next up for them is going to be Sheldon Rosenbaum, and then they've got another battle between Jackman and Postma.
Stay on there. I just want to update the viewers. Schuster still out in front over McGarvey by about 8 seconds. Schuster having a nice quiet run. McGarvey's distanced himself about a second ahead of Billy Smith for your top 3 in the GT1 class.
Ooh, and look at Wolf close through Spoon. They're going to catch that GT3 car in just the right spot. I think the same thing is going to happen with Robert Jackman, at least for Tinsey. What about Wolf? He's going to squeeze inside just in time. Don't think he lost anything. Meanwhile, hearing that Quinn may have... Oh, and Quinn is... Oh, he gets run into by Chase Hudson, actually. Now, Hudson had to have seen him. How in the world?
Must have taken a tear off during that pit stop.
Yeah, I guess it happened at just the wrong moment. That maybe he was focused on his braking point and not Matt Quinn, because Matt Quinn was just about on the racing line facing the wrong way.
It looked like Quinn brought the car back out onto the track, though, to spin it around, then decided not to. I don't want to say that. I think he had control of the car, and Quinn looped it out there on the pavement, then decided to stop.
So unfortunately not going to have a race-long battle with Ponik, who is all the way up in 4th, Quinn down in 7th. Used to seeing those two duke it out. And speaking of duking it out, Wolf back to within 3/10 of Robert Tinsey.
I'll tell you right now, Wolf will make my life easier if he can get around Tinsey and then get some clean air, because I think he can pull away. He's there the entire race. He's been following. Oh, mercy.
Oh. And that, I think, was caused by Dave Hill making Tinsey have to check up a little bit sooner than he usually would. But thankfully, Wolf was heads up on that one, did not get into the back of Tinsey. Could have been an opportunity. And I think Robert Tinsey is going to have to update his sponsor to Sure, because he is making him sweat.
Got to tip the hat to the league organizers for choosing this track to open with, because this is a good track for nice long track. There is so much traffic though tonight.
As you say, yeah, there's 50 plus drivers on course, and 5 different kinds of cars, 3 different classes. There's no shortage of things to keep an eye on.
Still, we watch this battle for the lead. 15 minutes left to go. It has literally been going on since the drop of the green. If you're just joining us here in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, we're watching Patrick Wolf and P2 for the prototypes as he closes up, trying to chase down Patrick Tinsey, and he's challenged him since the very first corner. He's going to get his best opportunity, perhaps, since the start, but he backs out before Degner won.
I'm sure he's watching the clock and he knows I got 14 minutes to get this done.
Man, this is one of the most intense battles for the lead we've seen in the prototypes, I think, since Season 2.
Oh, yeah.
All right, he's backed off just a little bit. Let's go through our order one more time here for the final quarter of the hour. Robert Tinsley in the lead, Patrick Wolf in second. Ulmer 21 seconds back, but still in the podium position. Mark Ponick in fourth, and Kevin Binkley rounds out our top 5 in the prototypes.
Troy Schuster in front of Stephen McGarry by quite a distance now. It's about 8 seconds. McGarry about 2 seconds over Billy Smith. Then Paul Lindsay running in fourth. And then Brandon Postma. Lindsay and Postma both in some Aston Martins. The other 3 drivers in Corvettes. Smitty, who do you got in GT3?
In GT3, it's all John Paquin out front. A bit of a gap back to Tony Lamberti. Again, Paquin running that Merc, one of many in that machine. Lamberti in the BMW, with Soul BMW in the top 5. Third place, Dave Hill, followed by Robbie Morrison, also in a Merc. And I haven't said a single thing about him, and maybe that's a good thing. Leandro Schmidt, he's in the top 5 position, making his, I believe, first start here in the series.
And let's go to John Paquin real quick in the GT3, since he just got around. He had some leaders there. It was one of those eclipses where everything lines up. Tinsey and Wolf just got around Paquin.
Yeah, Wolf was getting extremely close. Oh, and we got a car off track. Who is that?
That's McGarvey, actually. Yeah. See, they're coming up. This is interesting. They just went through the GT3 leaders. Now they're actually going to be coming up on the GT2 leaders here in a minute. But first, they got to get around this lap car of Atanas Dimitrov.
Atanas running a plain white livery. For today's race, we'll need to get him a painter. Someone will have to help him out, but they work their way past. He pulled over, let them through nicely, and the battle resumes. I think that around that second apex of Spoonbill, that Wolf is just so much stronger.
David Henry just looped it and put it in the wall. Let's see if he had any help. He was coming up behind Woloshyn. Right through, just coming onto the main straightaway, just past pit entrance, and he put it in the wall. He was running 47th overall.
We saw quite a bit of damage on the front end of that Merc, so it looks like unless he can get that repaired, well, I guess he might still have his free repair left, so he could still get back out there.
I think he crashed, though, about 20 feet past pit entrance, so I don't know. I think I'd racing and make you tow it all the way around.
Yeah, that's going to be about 6 minutes, I'm sure.
Unless you could back up, but you risk getting disqualified.
Yeah, that'll get you disqualified in a hurry.
I've tried to do it like an inch at a time. I'll go another inch, and they remember.
Bill's on doing the work for you so that you don't have to get disqualified and find out yourself.
I'm going to go 15 feet and stop and then try it again. But no, they know this thing.
Well, there's only been about 15 feet between our leaders, yeah. As they work their way through traffic yet again. Tinsey and Wolf managing to get by Schuster now. Oh, and look at Wolf takes a little bit of a peek down into the hairpin. A little bit too far back to make it actually work.
I got a feeling that's got to be all about just putting the pressure on, isn't it? I mean, you're that far back, you still got 10 minutes to play. Both drivers very quick. But doing something, maybe you can just push him into a mistake, even though it would be a little out of character. Now,
our graphic is showing that Wolf does not have a team. I'm wondering if that's correct. Is he a privateer?
He's a privateer.
Ooh.
Will he go and get off after this race?
I think so.
Still, he has nothing else at stake except his own points, so he doesn't need to worry about a team and just getting the good finish here. He wants the win.
They go around Fabricio Batista there.
Nicely done, Bill.
Yeah, it was close. Sounded good. You know, Joe and Smitty, this is an interesting way to cover the race. We just stay on Tinsey and Wolf the whole time, and actually gets everybody some screen time.
We've been trying to cover some other battles. Yeah. They've been there. In fact, we actually have one going on in our prototype class. Ben Likens, we haven't given him hardly any screen time, and he is trying to hold off Kevin Binkley. This is for 5th position. Likens getting a good run down the backstretch currently. That's going to allow him some breathing space over Binkley.
try to follow up on some of the battles that we recovered that have split up a little bit. We don't need to go there, but Topich has now distanced themselves away from. He was in that battle with Sock Rider. He's moved away from that.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, is Robert Jackman and Sam Boren in the same class? Is this a battle for position?
No, those are two different classes.
Ah, okay. Still, the car ahead of him, that was Matt Quinn having a little bit of trouble trying to work his way through traffic. Having a bit of a close moment. This has not been Matt Quinn's day.
Okay, maybe we should get back up to the leaders here because they're coming up on some cars again, getting up behind Eduardo Tomiti.
And next up for them, they've actually got Kevin Santana and Mark Wilson, but that is not a battle for position.
They're laps apart, yep. But what will make it interesting is now they're starting to lap their own class, so that could be making it a little more difficult.
Down into turn one, Patrick Wolf starting to close once again. I'm getting pretty convinced at this point that these two have very different setups because Wolf seems to close in various areas around the track.
We got some trouble ahead. We got Tim McLeish up there. We got Christopher Sherburne, Wilson in prototypes. Oh, this is going to be interesting.
They're coming up fast. First up on the list is going to be Sherburne, and they're hitting Degner 1 and 2. Meanwhile, those prototypes ahead of them are causing some action, a bit of contact ahead of them. That was between McLeish and Wilson.
Wilson out of the way now, and there goes Tinsey gets by. Wolf gets by. Now they only have one more prototype. That's the lap car of Mark Wilson. Tinsey says, Mark, let us both go. He's talking to him right now on the radio. And Mark does exactly that.
Nicely done getting out onto the AstroTurf. Now, with these guys doing about laps in the 146 range, we've got 7 minutes left. How many laps are left for them to try and get this overtake done? Thinking about 5 more to go here, and wow, a good run through 130R for Patrick Wolf. Closes under braking through the Casio chicane. Can he just get a run? Just don't think he has the grip out of the corner. Look at him close as we ride on board with Robert Tinsey coming down the main straight. Is he going to take a look to the inside? He runs out of room as Tinsey actually even closes it off.
That front straightaway just isn't quite long enough for Wolf to make something happen there.
Smitty, that's exactly what I was thinking too. He needed another 200 yards.
And
sorry, Patrick, Daytona's later in the season here, but...
Oh, that'll be an interesting battle for sure between these two. But I was going to say, and yet, we've seen multiple times Robert Tinsey go defensive. He gets a terrible run coming through Dunlop, but he is saved once again by the traffic as he almost goes off into the kitty litter.
Now, the good news is for these guys, they're 23 seconds up on Ulmer, so if disaster were to happen and they were to spin, there's a good chance they could get the car straightened out and still get it, to not lose a position. I don't mean to any self-fulfilling prophecies there, but
that's
it could
one heck
happen.
of a silver lining there, Bill.
Boy, you talk about Robert Tinsey saying he's had a white-knuckle ride trying to run these races. I think after this race, he's going to have a hand imprint on the wheel for how tight he's probably gripping it.
I'll tell you, I mean, we've had interviews plenty with Tinsey from last season. If you talk to him, you know, this is the kind of stuff he loves. He'd rather be doing this every single race than having big wins, so he's enjoying all of it for sure. I'm sure Wolf is as well.
And apologies to the rest of the field for sticking on this for so long, but this is one of the best battles we've had in a long time. Ever so tight out on track, and it keeps coming back and forth. And honestly, we don't have too many close fights at the moment.
No, and that's the anomaly, isn't it? In the other classes, they're actually spread out where, you know, typically we're going to have nose-to-tail fights elsewhere. This time, it's all about prototypes.
I do see that Binkley is on the back of Quinn for that 6th position at the moment. Quinn might have some damage after running into trouble multiple times in this race. Once in 130R and once in the hairpin that we've seen on screen.
Well, the good news is the lap times that Tinsley and Quinn are putting down, we'll get to that battle quickly, you know?
Oh, we got a car off just ahead of him. Is that Leif Peterson? It is. He manages to get back on track. He almost squeezes into Wolf, though.
I think he made
Oh, in contact between Tinsley and Joe Redden. And unfortunately for Wolf, he got right into the back of him. Now, do either of them have damage from that? This is actually, I want to say this is the second time we've seen Tinsley make contact with another car.
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe Ren. I'm going to assume Ren got loose because he came right down in front of Tinsley. All I had to do was stay to the right.
Yeah, it looked like...
I'm being generous there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an unusual line for Ren. These two still not separated, and they have yet more traffic ahead of them. That's Sheldon Rosenbaum and Robert Jackman. Sneaks through the inside down the front stretch.
Yeah. When is it going to happen here? With 2:52, I guess maybe 2 more laps.
Sounds about right. Possibly 3, actually.
Now they're coming up on a battle for position. They're coming up with Schmidt and Bourne. These guys are in a battle for, well, it's important to them.
Schmidt and Bourne, again, those are 2 different classes. There you got Bourne, GT1. Schmidt, he's actually P5 and GT3.
It's so easy to mistake them now.
God.
But look at him close. Here comes Robert Tinsley. Looks on the inside of Degner too, and Wolf follows him through. That was a critical move. In fact, he got a much better exit. They're coming up to the hairpin, a great place to try and make a pass, but they've got traffic once again, and Tinsley covers him off. The car just completely goes off course. That was
boring. Good job from Sam. Didn't want to hold you all up, he said in a Texas drawl.
Bourne has got to be tired after running 600 miles last night in the Coca-Cola 600 for the Pacific Majors. Glutton for punishment, I guess.
Well, boys, if this is any indication of what we're in for the rest of the 13 races, we got a season ahead of us.
Oh, yeah, and look how close he is this time. Is he going to try and make a dive? He jukes a little bit coming up to the corner, but Robert is not swayed. He stays on the defensive line right in the middle of the track. Now they exit out of that final chicane up onto the front stretch, and once again, Wolf just about the distance back. We've seen him every single time and can't close it in. And this is the white flag lap with 1 minute left on the clock.
Morrison ahead of him now. Morrison and Chambliss.
This is for all the marbles, boys. Coming up on the traffic of Chuck Chambliss. Manages to sneak through, so does Wolf.
But wide goes Tinsley.
Wolf closes in, but this is not typically a passing
zone. I think he's got a shot at him. Oh!
Cuts him off. That was very brave from Tinsley. That took some trust.
Now they're stuck behind Reese. That might have been the shot. He's going to have to really work to get up there now.
There's one more car ahead of him. That's Dave Hill. He could hold him up. Let's see if he holds to the side. No, he holds just in the middle of the lane. I think this is going to give Patrick Wolf just a little bit of a leg in. Not much, though. About 8/10 back. Clock runs itself down to 0. White flag comes out. There's going to be one more chance, and look at Patrick Wolf close once again through Spoon Curve. He's now within half a second. The draft helping him. Have they got traffic? They do. They've got Mark Schindel ahead of them. Final overtaking spot into the Casio triangle. What's it going to be? Is Mark Schindel going to play a role in this? He tries to back out of it. He holds up Tinsey just a little bit.
He might have
and
a run.
Here comes Wolf. This is the closest he's been all race. Here comes Tinsey looking around the outside. Wolf trying to split him, and across the line it's going to be Tinsey. Whew.
That was the lap to actually make the pass. I think he would have got him going into one, but he ran out of time.
All right, where is Schuster and Paquin? It looks like
going through
Schuster's...
Spoon.
Yep. So I think Schuster's going to be our next person.
Paquin's got about a whole nother lap to go. He's just come out of the S's now.
Yeah, he was just ahead of them, it looks like, as they came to the line. And Ulmer is going to come home in third place as we wait for Schuster to get to the start-finish line. One more time through the Casio triangle for Troy Schuster. Was not really challenged all race long. It hasn't been a huge gap, but Troy Schuster with a solid win here in round one of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Now we get a whole half a lap for John Paquin to come around. He's only in Spoon.
I remember John.
It's good to see Paquin back. He has been a fast driver in just about every series we've seen here on the Global Sim Racing channel that he's come in. We thought that Lamberti was going to give him a hard time. He did at the start of the race, but Paquin started to stretch away, and it looks like at the line it's going to be a whole 7 seconds between himself and Lamberti. Through the Casio chicane, our last leader of the three classes, John Paquin, comes across the line to take a win, picking up right where he left off. And that should be pretty much the whole field, I think, completing their race. So, after 60 minutes here in round one, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away from the Global Sim Racing channel because on screen we're going to have our upcoming broadcast. Stick around. Welcome back to Suzuka Circuit here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. You just watched round 1 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge, or hopefully you watched it, because man, what a first round that was with the battle for the lead in the prototypes, and it was Robert Tinsley who came out on top. He had to work for it because Patrick Wolf, who finished second, pressured him every single lap of the way. John Ulmer, our Season 2 champion, unfortunately, rounding out the podium. I'm sure he's going to want to try and get a few more steps up. Mark Ponick, he came home 4th. Nice finish for him. Ben Likens, one of the new guys in the prototypes, he finished in the top 5. Nice finish for him. Matt Quinn came home in 6th, and Kevin Binkley, who has transferred over to the prototypes this season, finished in 7th. John O'Day came home in 8th. Jeffrey Price in 9th, and Bill rounding out the top 10 is Mark Wilson.
Tanos Dimitrov in 11th position. 12th spot goes to Troy Schuster. Baker's dozen spot to Stephen McGarvey. Billy Smith got around Paul Lindsay for 3rd in class. So Schuster, McGarvey, and Smith all in Corvettes. Then we get to some Aston Martins there. I'm sorry, Schuster, McGarvey, and Smith in Corvettes. Lindsay in an Aston Martin in 15th position. Brian Postma in 16th behind him. David Sockrider in 17th. And those guys are all in Aston Martins. Then this looks like a prototype of Matt Owens back here in 18th spot. 19th and 20th go to Mark Schindel and Chuck Chambliss. And now over to you, Smitty.
After that, in the 21st position, you do have Kevin Santana in a prototype. Leif Peterson in the GT1. He's moved up from the GT3s. Christopher Sherburne in GT1, as well as Roberto Montero in the GT1. Then our winner in GT3s, John Paquin, followed by second place GT3s, Tony Lamberti. Dino Topic in GT1s for 27th. Dave Hill, third place, ran out the podium for GT3s in the 28th overall position. Sean Reese in a GT1, 29th, and Robbie Morrison in a GT3 in 30th place there, Joe.
Also in the GT3 class, Leandro Schmidt, 31st overall. Then you go back to Sam Boren in GT1. Then it's Robert Jackman in 33rd overall. Once again, GT3s. Ryan Bird, 34th. Sheldon Rosenbaum, 35th. And Patrick Fleming, 36th. Jimbo Pfeiffer came home in 37th, followed by Jim McInnes. Not a good finish for him today, all the way down in 38th overall. Kevin O'Keefe, 39th. And Eduardo Tomede in the 40th position. Bill?
41st is we have a run of Mercs here. Sheldon Woloshin, Robert Solenka, Fabiosa Bastiella, Joe Wren, Tim McLeish, and David Henry, all in Mercs. That's 41 to 46. 47th position is Chase Hudson in a Corvette. Bob Grant back there in a GT3 there is in 48th. That's in the BMW. Arthur Hermont, 49th. He's going to finish 23 laps down. And in let's go down here into 50th. I'll take it all the way out. Ross Booth, Brett Trozine, and Emmanuel Ajeri back there in 52nd position. Do we have anybody else? I think that's all. 52 cars took the grid.
That was all of them. Apologies for the last couple cars not getting the graphics on the screen. We had a little bit of a technical glitch. But we do have some interviews to go through. First up, let's start with the prototypes, and let's bring Robert Tinsley in here. We're used to talking to Robert after the race. This time, I think it's going to be just a little bit different. And how wet are your driver gloves or driver's seat there, Robert? Because I have to imagine you were sweating.
Oh, yeah. I'm sweating like a prostitute in church.
So we have to say that we enjoyed that battle from up in the booth. Did you enjoy it down on the track? It seems like Wolf was really hounding you at every turn.
Oh yeah, unbelievably so. That was the most fun I've had in a long time. He is one heck of a driver.
Now, we noticed you managed to pit before Wolf did. Did you plan to try and short pit, or were you hoping to try and stretch longer than him?
Yeah, I had one more lap of fuel left, and I saw that there was like 3 or 4 cars coming up that we would have probably caught in the S's. So I figured I would surprise him and just kind of tuck in a lap early and hopefully have him get caught up in the traffic a little bit. So a little bit of an undercut.
So Bill was right. You were watching that. We wondered if you had the mental capacity to be trying to hold off Wolf and watch that at the same time and make that call. That is impressive. Well, you won another one, but man, it was under very different circumstances, and congratulations. I bet you're going to enjoy this one a lot more than ones previously.
Oh, for sure. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for Patrick for putting on such a great race. I think he had a little bit of pace on me, but he was just getting a little bit of aero push, so I was able to keep him behind. Thanks, guys. That
was Robert Tinsey, our winner in the prototype classes. Next up, we're going to talk to Troy Schuster, and Bill has caught up to him in victory lane.
Troy, congratulations on the win to start off the season. Well, you didn't have anybody pressuring you for positions, but boy, you had a lot of traffic to deal with.
Yeah, it was quite a hectic race, Bill, for sure. Thanks. I appreciate that. I had, with the terrible season ender I had at Daytona for season 3, I figured I better come out and give it my all and show everybody who the guy to beat is this season, huh?
Well, you did that, but there's a new name to watch out for, and this Stephen McGarvey was behind you. He was pretty much pacing you for most of the race, but I think if you would have made a mistake, he would have been on you for the whole time.
Oh, absolutely. Steven's a hell of a racer. I've raced with him a couple times. We raced in Neo together. He's very equal to my pace, so I'm sure there's going to be plenty of tracks where he's going to give me a hard time. I just kind of got lucky. He was battling Billy for a little bit there in the beginning. I was able to make a gap and get away. Pit stop worked out, so yeah, I kind of got lucky because Steve's a hell of a racer.
Hey, let me ask you, since I think personally you're in the toughest class. I know the prototypes talk about have to weave through traffic so much, but at least they can always look forward. It's got to be difficult for you when you got to get around the GT1s or GT3s that aren't all that much slower than you, and then those prototypes coming up from the back. Do you have anything that you do to keep an eye both front and back?
Well, generally for me, I'll just I'll gauge how far I am from, say I got an HPD and a GT3. I got to kind of try to figure out how far I've got in advance till I'm going to be making the pass on the GT3, how quick the HPD is closing. So yeah, it can get really tricky at times. But a lot of times if you're just really patient and just use your head, it doesn't turn out to be too big of a deal, but it's easy to make a mistake. I'll give you that for sure.
It was kind of nice. You had a nice little cushion so you could take your time a little bit. When you watch the broadcast, you'll see some going through traffic from the HPDs where nobody had a cushion. It was an exciting show. Hey, Troy, congratulations on the win, and let's see if you can. Do you have a championship yet? I don't think you do.
No, I unfortunately again lost the drivers last season at Daytona, but we got it for the team, and that's all that matters to me. So.
Got it. Congratulations on the win today. Troy Schuster, your winner in GT1. Joe?
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Nicely done in his Corvette today. We have one more winner to talk to. That is John Paquin. Glad to see him return. He won in the GT3 class, and Smitty's going to ask him how his race went.
John boy, nice job. Good to have you in the series. Got a pole and a W, something we've seen from you before, but you got to be pretty stoked to start out the season this way.
Oh, thank you, guys. Yeah, that was fun. New guy's got some really good pace, though. He kept me on my toes, so I tried to just eke out a little 3-second lead and then just kind of play gap management and not do anything stupid.
Talk about gap management. A place like Suzuka, with the amount of traffic you guys had, how difficult is that to try to maintain the gap from behind while still trying to let the guys by at the places you want to let them by?
Most of the time, you're so familiar with the faster guys and the GT1s and HPDs, you kind of know what to expect, and they know what to expect from me. So it's usually not a problem. Today was a little different. There's a lot of new faces and a lot of unexpected scenarios, but I took the safe way and gave them a lot of room, and I probably gave up a lot of time doing it. But it was a little different this week with all the new guys. We have to get used to each other.
Certainly, definitely going to be a learning curve for everybody. A brand new season, and everything like that. Looking forward to the rest of the season here. You got a pole, you got a win. As I said, it is fairly typical to see at the sharp end. Are you expecting to kind of have it go your way, or are you expecting a fight all the way down to the end?
Probably a fight, because I'm typically not really good at the front engine cars in iRacing and these GT1s or GT3s. I'm kind of a McLaren, Porsche, Audi kind of guy, so I don't really know why. I kind of struggle with these cars in terms of pace versus the other ones. So I expect with some new guys that, no, I'm not I'm not getting away from anyone, I don't think. Not this time.
Well, Lamberti was the first one to put the challenge on you. What do you think about going to the next race here? You feeling pretty good about it, or is it going to be definitely one step at a time?
I've always done well at Phillips Island. It's going to be like this, in my opinion, though. The traffic is going to be really hectic, and the guys are going to have to be patient because there's some corners where the HPDs are going to have to sit behind, just kind of like here. So it ought to be another slugfest, I would guess.
Well, excellent. Nice job, buddy, and good to have you back in the series. Well done.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Joe, I think that's it for John here. Winner in GT3. I think you've got a fourth interview with Dino Topic.
Yes, Dino, who I believe finished 11th in class today, so not the greatest finish for Dino, but we have to ask, after Suzuka, with not probably the results you were hoping for, are you looking forward to heading over to Phillip Island? Do you think you can be strong there?
I hope. I was planning on this being a drop pick anyway, but not this kind of a drop. It was just unfortunate set of coincidences with 2 laps to go, and oh well, it happens.
What do you think about all of this talent coming in? Is it making it more difficult to get those top 5s and even wins along the way?
I'm sorry. What? I was kind of not listening.
You were distracted by Bill, it seems. With all the talent coming in, are you concerned about it being harder to get top 5s and wins along the way this season?
Oh, it'll be a hell of a challenge. Last season didn't go as good as I thought. I was able to put some pace down, but just not consistency. So this season I'll start on consistency first and focus on that and see where it brings me. Seems there was a bit of attrition, especially at the start, but we'll see how it goes. A lot of new people, new drivers to learn.
Very much so. Well, sorry for the short interview, but we got to get going here soon. So one final Bill question before we go. What's your favorite ice cream?
Mine?
Yes, yours.
Ooh, that's a trick question. Stracciatella. It's actually it's vanilla with chocolate chips.
Bit of a classic with a twist. I like that. All right, that was Dino Topic, 11th place finisher in the GT1 class today. So we're going to wrap up, though, with that being our last interview. And we, of course, want to thank once again the Autobahn Motorcar Group for yet again sponsoring for a 4th season this sports car challenge. And, of course, thanks to John Ulmer, who has been doing all the work since day one on organizing things behind the scenes. Of course, he does have help from other people who have helped on staff trying to make this all happen, and thanks to them as well. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can find listed on the websites on screen. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Smitty, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archive races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. So hit us up on social media. We love interacting with our fans. Ask us questions, especially even live during air. Sometimes we'll watch our Twitter and answer your questions, and even answer questions in the YouTube chat. Next race, as we mentioned, it's going to be Phillip Island. That'll be Monday, June 6th at 9:15 p.m. Eastern, 2 weeks from today. We have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Lots of exciting stuff. We've got, I believe, up to 13 series now, if I'm counting correctly. Lots of great leagues to follow here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. However, until that time comes, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.